Multiple personality. The whole subject has become a staple of daytime TV talk shows. And we don't know about you, but we find it hard to believe a lot of what we've seen there. So it surprised us to learn that in a large recent survey of the psychiatric community, 80% of the doctors, 80%, said that they do believe the disorder is real. How many people have it? Well, we're told it's extremely rare, only a handful of people. But for those who do, it is not an entertainment. It is desperately serious. And in fact, 2/3 of those diagnosed have tried to take their own lives. Tonight, we're going to talk with a couple of people diagnosed as the real thing, to see if we believe it, to see what science knows. And we'll begin with a woman who says she never even heard about the possibility before it happened to her.
You are looking at this century's first publicly documented case of what was once called multiple personality disorder. It's the 1950s, and this shy, conventional young woman appears to be just changing clothes, but she's not. Something is happening to Eve White.
No, I'm tired.
Could I speak with Eve Black, ma'am?
Sure.
Eve Black?
Her doctor has her under hypnosis and asks her to switch personalities.
Yeah, good.
Here, the playful and flirtatious one they call Eve Black.
Well, other than music, I have to have something to get me in the mood.
In 1957, her story would become the landmark film The Three Faces of Eve, which was the first most Americans had heard of multiple personality. But she now says Eve's three faces weren't the half of it.
Over a period of 44 years, I had 22 different personalities.
Tonight, you are meeting the woman whose story was told in that film 40 years ago, the real Eve. Her name is Chris Sizemore. She's been cured for 2 decades, but says she remembers how painful the attacks could be without hypnosis. So when you were about to switch, what would happen?
I'd get a severe headache, I'd turn red in the face, and then there was a dark period. And then the next personality would surface. And all of them had a fear of that dark period because they were so afraid that they might stop there.
And how long would most of them stay? A few hours?
Different periods of time. Some would stay a couple of hours, some days, some months.
We all feel that we have different sides, we have different moods. Some days we don't seem ourselves. Mm-hmm. Is it related to that?
No, it isn't role-playing, and it is not mood swings. They are totally separate entities. They are so different. Their tone of voice changes. Their facial expressions are different.
She says some personalities didn't know the others existed or what they did.
Eve Black, what do you know of Eve Black?
Nothing except what I'm told.
In addition to the 2 Eves, there was a competent personality she calls Jane. The 19 others were named by her children for their compulsions. The strawberry girl who ate only strawberries. She was a little wild and selfish. The purple lady who wore only purple but was kind and nurturing.
The purple lady was 59 years old, and the strawberry girl was only 21 years old.
But only in her mind. These 2 photos were taken just weeks apart. Chris Sizemore is 46 in both.
Growing up with a multiple, I had 22 different mothers.
Sizemore's son, Bobby, who is now a high school guidance counselor.
That was probably the most difficult thing, is that you never knew how long one of them would be around.
Bobby has said at one point you had gone to shop someplace and an alter came out who couldn't drive and who couldn't drive you home.
That often happened, so we had to sit there, and we sat there for 6 hours.
Some of the personalities, she calls them alters, painted self-portraits with vastly different images. One who collected playing cards painted herself as a candle melting away. And this was painted by an alter her children called Retrace Lady.
Wouldn't retrace her tracks. If she drove to town in one direction, she'd drive a mile around to come home in another direction. It's like she thought, if I don't repeat anything, then I'm not going to make mistakes like the others have made, and I will be the survivor.
They were in competition with each other.
Yes, everybody wanted to live. People do. People want to live.
People, you speak of them.
Well, they were very real to me.
You were sure that they're not faking it?
I've met some who are faking it. I have seen some who are, but I have also seen some and worked with some for many years who I'm convinced are not faking it, who that's the way they experience the world.
Dr. David Spiegel of Stanford University, a specialist on the disorder. He says new medical techniques are providing preliminary evidence of change inside the brain. These are brain scans from Boston University of a patient diagnosed with the disorder. 4 different personalities scanned in similar circumstances. There are noticeable differences, which doctors say they can't explain. 2/3 of those diagnosed report puzzling physical changes. Chris Sizemore, who was right-handed, says some of her alters could only paint with their left.
I had some that wore glasses and some who could read from the telephone directory without glasses. The purple lady had arthritis very badly in both hands. When there was a change of personality, there was no arthritis, and of course, I don't have any today.
They itch.
And Eve Black was allergic to nylon.
Right. And she was the only one in the group that was. That surprised me.
I think it's a hose.
One of the alters was blind, and
I went down to get my driver's license with my mother, and I came back out to the car, and there was a different person there. She had written me some notes saying, "Hi, I'm Andrea," which totally freaked me out because A, I didn't know there was another personality, and B, this one's deaf.
And strangest of all, Sizemore says Retrace Lady once got an injection of a strong sleeping medication. But when another personality emerged...
Well, when the purple lady came out, she didn't feel any effect of the drug, and she was able to get in the car and drive home.
One personality could be put to sleep, and the other could resist the medication completely.
Yes.
I don't think it's anything mystical. I think, in fact, we have a lot more mind control over many of our body functions than we give ourselves credit for.
Because it does seem sometimes like acting.
You're right. The personalities that you encounter are rather two-dimensional.
And indeed, scientists don't call the disorder multiple personality anymore. They have a new, more accurate name: dissociative identity disorder. The alternate identities are now seen as fragments of a single personality, like a mirror broken into shards sometime in childhood. A child's brain comes with a natural capacity to shift mental states quickly. Notice how a baby's mood will switch in an instant. And then later, all children enter a phase where they lose themselves in games of pretend.
And they sometimes lose the boundary between what's imagination and what's real.
And so you're saying this is a necessary passage for children to go through?
Yes, it's a normal developmental phase.
But it's also a vulnerable phase. Some children subjected to sustained trauma or abuse in this period use that natural ability to fantasize to disconnect themselves from reality and its horrors.
When you're being traumatized, you want to find ways to distance yourself from the pain or the fear or the sense of betrayal. And if you've got a way of going in your imagination to a mountain meadow full of wildflowers rather than being there and being hurt, that's what you'll do.
In a handful of children, the protective disconnection doesn't reconnect.
I remember floating down the hallway and looking back. I wasn't there.
Abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Sexual abuse.
Yeah.
This is Lucy, who has never talked publicly before about the illness for which she's been hospitalized in the past and is now seeking treatment.
How many are there?
Eight, including myself. There are 3 7-year-old parts. One is Ollie, and it's an angry little girl, and another one is little Lucy. And then the other 7-year-old part is named Maria. And I'd rather not talk about her right now.
Why?
It's too hard.
Chris Sizemore says she was not abused as a child, but witnessed 3 horrible accidents, and that trauma caused her to split.
One of the most difficult things for me as a child was to be punished for something I had done and not remember it, not know why I was being punished. It was quite frightening.
Frightening, and a key sign of the real disorder. Memory holes, barriers of amnesia between personalities. Think of daydreaming on a highway and suddenly 20 miles have passed. Now imagine the horror of hours or days passing and remembering nothing. Like the time the Sizemore family moved and the purple lady reappeared.
When she came back out, she didn't even know where she was. She didn't know that they had moved.
Sizemore says Eve Black didn't know she had children. One day, her daughter Taffy was annoying her. Suddenly, when the child was threatened by Eve Black, Eve White switched in.
It was the alter Eve White that decided that they had to have therapy because Eve Black had attempted to choke Taffy with a Venetian cord.
Eve Black was dangerous.
Don't think so. I did for the longest while. And of course, Eve White thought so.
Would Eve Black have killed your daughter?
No, I don't think so. Unless one of my children were in danger or my life were in danger. I don't think I'm capable of killing anybody. Eve Black was a part of me.
And later, it was Eve Black who came to the rescue when Eve White attempted suicide.
Eve Black came out and stopped it. She was going to sever her wrist.
40 years ago, little was known about how to treat the disorder, and Sizemore thinks her first therapy may have added to her problems.
In the sense that it sort of reinforces the behavior. I believe that Jane was created in therapy under hypnosis.
Could I speak with Jane? Jane? How you do?
I'm fine. How are you?
There are authentic multiple personalities, but they are rare.
This is noted psychiatrist Dr. Herbert Spiegel, who believes there is a problem today, rampant overdiagnosis.
I think it's an embarrassment for the whole profession.
He faults overexcited psychiatrists, not their patients.
And they start interacting with the therapist with the memory of what they felt like at a certain time of their life. And then as the therapist responds to this with a gleam in their eyes and a little smile and a kind of encouragement, and this now becomes like a mutual admiration society. And then they develop this tendency to fix on a certain stance and give it a name and call it a personality.
By the way, the two Dr. Spiegels are father and son.
I'm not yet convinced that it's terribly overdiagnosed. I think it may be, I'm sure there are cases where a mistake is made, but I think there are also cases where mistakes are made in the other direction and somebody has it and it isn't diagnosed.
There are still, of course, people who just think it's not true, period.
Of course.
That it is just acting, brilliant acting maybe, and brilliantly detailed acting.
Yeah, I understand that, you know, and there's no way I can convince them, and I don't try.
Chris Sizemore says she was finally cured back in the 70s by a doctor who refused to focus on the personalities, but spent 6 years reinforcing her ability to function as Chris.
You teach them, first of all, that they can have access to these different parts of themselves. And I've had patients who say, hey, you know, I'm here and I'm here too.
And you're not going to believe this, you know. When I first came out and became whole, I wanted a new dress because all I had were hand-me-downs from myself.
She remembers how the walls of amnesia became thinner and thinner.
It was very frightening because I hadn't been out for over 40 years. And, you know, I had to absorb memory very, very fast. And my daughter was there. She came over and just took me in her arms and held me. Mother, you're going to be all right. I'm sorry.
She told us some of her alters actually said goodbye.
They wrote wills. They packed away their memorabilia. A couple of them actually put on clothes that they liked and just laid down on the couch.
When a personality left or didn't come back, I probably thought of them as dying also, that there was a person there and now I won't be seeing that person anymore and they're gone.
When I finally integrated and realized that all of these others had to die for me to live, I felt a sense of grief about it.
Your friends.
Uh-huh. They were friends.
But for Lucy, they are still a torment, as you'll see when we return.
I gotta stop for a second.
Before we resume, a couple of points about what has been called multiple personality disorder. It is not schizophrenia, even though it's often confused with it and diagnosed as it. For one thing, schizophrenics tend to be much more disoriented about the world around them. And another point, the majority of these patients are women, perhaps because more girls than boys are abused. Which brings us back to Lucy. We want you to know that we sought her out. Her decision to talk with us was not an easy one. She considered it for weeks with her husband and her psychiatrist. For one thing, there's her job. She's a nurse practitioner who's delivered hundreds of babies. And at work, she has never had a problem, which we're told is not unusual with this disorder.
I do my best to keep it under wraps. You know, when I go to work, everything stops. Everything gets put on the back burner. Everything but my work.
Lord, bless this food we're about to receive in your name. Continue to give us patience and understanding.
Does it happen
Amen.
around your children?
Extremely rare has it ever happened in front of my children. If I feel a switch coming on, I go to my room and I shut my bedroom door because I don't want to end up with them being traumatized because their mother has a dissociative disorder.
Are you Lucy?
Sitting here right now? Yeah.
Or is this someday going to have been an alter and the real Lucy?
You know, I wonder that sometimes myself. I have to trust that I am the core person. I have to believe that. Because if I'm not, then who am I?
She said she's been losing time, blank periods in her life since she was a little girl. She remembers the panic the first time it happened.
When I was in grade school, I remember one day I woke up and I was in a different grade, in a different classroom, with a different teacher and different kids around me, and there was math on the board that I had never, ever seen. I didn't know what happened to the time.
Her family members have confirmed that Lucy was sexually abused. There were also suicide attempts. In high school, before Lucy and Don were married, he says he was mystified by her strange, illogical outbursts.
She would always say things that were off the wall or just right out of thin air. The weirdest things or the weirdest action.
Though now, he says,
I know that's just another part of her that needs support, needs help.
any of them unkind to you?
One of them. But I keep telling her I love them all. And she says, no, you don't like the one.
Who is she?
It's okay for me to say?
Sure.
Lucille.
I thought it was Angel.
Mm-mm. Lucille's the one that's so bitchy all the time.
And Angel?
Angel's a bitch, too. That part is just very controlling and very demanding and very manipulative. Childhood that is...
Her psychiatrist, Dr. Richard Moskowitz, who's written a comprehensive book on dissociative disorders. He says child alters frequently serve as custodians of separate, painful memories. He accompanied Lucy to the interview.
It's very common to have alters that represent various ages, various periods of their memories.
What do you think it caused you to do? And we did ask about those memories and their connection to the disorder.
What the word I'm trying to think of.
How many times? As we talked, she was clearly troubled. Pauses, the headaches. Then, after about 40 minutes of questioning, her hands came up, her face was flushed like a child's.
What's frightening, Lucy?
All of her questions.
Okay. It's frightening to be here.
Within minutes, a change, a chilly, hostile reproach.
Oh.
You're going to have to take your hands off of me.
Careful, careful.
Out in the hall, she's still not in control.
So we should
If you lived the life I lived, you'd be in pain too.
She flies out of the room. The doctor follows. Don waits.
Does this scare you when this happens?
No, because I've gotten used to it. It used to. I think it was a combination of some scared child parts and Angel.
I'm better.
Before long, Lucy returns.
I'm better. I'm better. Yeah, banging on the
We went outside. Her doctor told us that under the pressure she had been switching. And because of the therapy, she now remembers some of what she does.
Me yelling at you and running out. And mean to.
Yes, you did.
Well, maybe a part did. A part of me did. I didn't.
She asked us to leave you with one thought, the reason she came forward. That child abuse doesn't just shatter a child, but sometimes a whole life.
By the way, doctors are looking at the possibility of some biological susceptibility to this disorder and whether it's related to the ability to be easily hypnotized. In the meantime, by the way, there are no drugs that will treat it. In the coming weeks, we at Primetime are going to revisit this subject with respect to the courts, addressing the validity of multiple personality as a criminal defense.